Hello everyone, happy Sunday. I am behind the camera today because I am a little bit drained. I've been growing by leaps and bounds, rapidly, having a lot of understanding come to my mind. And some of it does have to do with the alcoholic parent. So, there's a silver lining behind all of this. The video I made yesterday was an introduction to what I wanted to share my experience to give people education and knowledge. Those who came across it, well, one in particular, one was very nice and the other one chose to victimize me once again. And for that reason, I've marked it private. I think, like I said, people that want to learn about human behavior, it will be educational. People that are empaths need to know what's going to happen when they encounter different types of personalities. We are healers. I am a super empath. I am a healer. I've done healings off and on over the past 20 years. And we are sponges, and we do gather this information. And then we can either purge it or, we get in touch with the person mentally, and we can project onto them, or we can see what's going on in a dream. As I said, in my dream, the shamanic dreaming. But just because you see the issue doesn't mean they're going to just change. Black Witch Savannah is a psychologist, and she talks a lot about different behaviors. She has a couple of videos on narcissism, and I suggest that you go watch them, okay? Because at my age, and I found out when I was in my 40s that I was an ACA, but narcissism never came up. My sister never mentioned it. We're ACAs, you need to go to Al-Anon, this and that. Narcissism and the word narcissism never came up. And of course, our mother never admitted it. She'd been in psychotherapy for over 30 years. I just knew that I could never get involved with another person who drinks every day. It was a way to drown the problem from childhood. But not until I was probably in my late 20s did my mother confess to me that her psychologists were dumping her because she wouldn't try to do anything to change. It was all about being a victim, a perennial victim. There are other things that happened in the past that I'm looking at now that I can see were incredibly cruel and hostile. And so, yeah, it's not uncommon. I just came across a video. People in their 50s and 60s suddenly have to realize that they had a narcissistic parent. Even in her old age, she told me she had a dream where she was telling off her stepfather, who was repeatedly raping her. And I said, good, maybe you're healing and coming into your power. But that didn't happen until she was about 77 years old. By that time, she was already so physically ill from never ever taking care of herself. I don't know whether there was any type of a release from her or not. But again, it was an inner rage. She told me she was raging. So most of her life, she was fueled by anger. She did admit that. And I think she was a covert narcissist because she was obsessed with image. And she would have to lie down several times a day. She'd be so exhausted after going out in public to run an errand. Now, I had a dream, and she asked me to help her one time, that I was running and hiding behind anything and everything outside. And the next day, I ended up picking a fight with my husband. And I told my mom, I said, Mom, I had a dream that you're afraid of everything and everybody. When you're outside, you're very, very frightened. You put on this facade, but yeah, you want to run and hide behind everything. And she said, yeah, that's pretty much it. So she did end up becoming a hermit in her 60s. So, you know, here I am, 60 years old, never, ever, ever being told in any way, shape, or form that my parent was an alcoholic narcissist. This is what I'm looking at now. And I have grown by leaps and bounds, and I do attract people with problems. When you are an empath, this is what's going to happen. You will absorb it, and then you'll have to work on purging it. It can help the people to a certain extent. But if you've been practicing magic, you're probably going to have to sit down, as Black Witch Savannah says, and perform an act of magic to actually encourage this false ego state from the child that is believing it needs to still protect the child even though they're an adult. It doesn't really understand. It's outgrown the child body. So it's incredibly windy out here today. At some point, somehow, some way, someday, maybe I'll be able to sit down and write a little workbook for Kindle, you know, for the empath, or I will save these videos. I'm going to make them private very shortly, probably after this one. It's important to name the condition and talk about it and share what happened. And for anyone to claim that, you know, I had done anything is ridiculous, as I've talked about the behavior in that video. So on Patreon, people will be able to purchase a series of videos going through these types of behaviors and how to deal with them. Like I said, I also believe in, at the same time, while you're receiving insights, discussing them with a qualified psychotherapist. And I know that Black Witch Savannah does have consultations, but I'm not, you know, a certified psychologist, so I'll probably just be sharing what I've learned in videos on Patreon. I've got to figure out how to do it. I'm not yet retired, so I don't know how long this is going to take. In the meantime, I would say if you wanted to make a donation to my PayPal, I could send you the link to the videos that I will make in preparation for Patreon. Otherwise, they're only going to be up for maybe a day. I have left all the other videos up. I said I would delete them, but they're educational, okay? Whether or not that proves to be true remains to be seen. I may have to mark them private and just push them over to the Patreon, right, like a case study. But it's important. If you read the comments on Black Witch Savannah's video, there's a lot of people who have been through these types of things, and they share their own feelings and experiences. Some of them have been attacked physically. Some of them have had to start to learn to work at a distance. And that is what the clairvoyant does. That is what the medium, a super empath, does. So for the moment, there has been a lot more disconnect. And I am working on, of course, clearing my own aura from this, but also working to magically deal with the narcissist itself. There's always a chance that there's a cycle and a pattern that you don't know yet. And until it happens, you won't know. You don't know what you don't know. And if this is a cycle and a pattern, then within the next 4 to 5 months, I could be facing this again. So, you know, whether or not I'm going to be able to move at that time remains to be seen. So that's it for now. I have heard of obsessive people that end up getting in very bad accidents and they change. Years ago, I was watching the 700 Club. And there was a woman who described her husband's behavior. He was very distant, very moody, very uninvolved. She began to pray every single day for her husband to be healed and changed, to be a good husband and a kind father. Well, after I don't know how many months this woman prayed every single day, he literally got into an accident and had brain damage. So he was like a baby, and she had to be a caretaker, and he had to learn everything all over again. But she said after several years of therapy, she finally had the nice, kind, considerate husband that she had prayed for. I'll never forget that. It's shocking and it seems cruel, but she left it up to God, and that's what happened. So, change is possible, but it sometimes has to be enacted by an outside source. Like I said, my mother never ever gave it up. She never ever... there was one occasion where she started working on her thoughts, and I'll have to talk about that in another video. Have a good day.